Welcome to the Feeding for Lamb Survival webinar, Part 3.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is David Brown and I work for Farm Advisory Holmes Sackett. So feeding for lamb survival, does it pay? Key messages thus far: feed scan mobs of twin ewes that generate a lot higher returns, and feed to maintain, not to gain weight, but the returns are still pretty good in twins. Returns and landed grain prices above $260 a tonne start to become quite marginal in unscanned mobs, which you can see here. The blue lines, the twin bearing mobs, in either maintaining weight or, for the dotted line, gaining weight. But when you come down to the unscanned mobs, especially in the dotted line there, which represents unscanned mob being fed to gain weight, it starts to become a marginal exercise post $220 a tonne, and actually starts to cost money if you're paying more than $280 a tonne for your grain. Two more variables I wanted to look at. The value of feeding is lower when the energy available from pasture is close to the required daily intake. This is for twin ewes specifically. And why is that? Because, simply put, there's an overhead cost of scanning. So if you're going to achieve 80% of the ewes, or twin bearing ewes, required daily intake from pasture, which is on the green line there, you can see that your return on assets managed, for the most part, about 40 and going down to about 30% lower return on investment compared to feeding a ewe that's only getting 50% of its required daily intake from the pasture. And the last variable I wanted to look at was that for every extra 100 grams a day of maternal live weight gain that you want will cost you about 30% return on investment. Why is that? Because a greater percentage of the supplementary feed that you're paying for and putting out is going towards inefficient weight gain production. So you can see there, if you're trying to put on 125 grams a day on your ewes, which is depicted by the green line, compared to 25 grams a day in the blue line, it's going to cost you about 30% of your return on investment, irrespective of the grain price on the day. So the key messages: feed scan mobs of twin ewes, feed to maintain, not to gain. The more energy coming from their pasture, the less value there is in scanning and feeding, and the more you feed them, i.e. the more maternal live weight they gain, the lower your return on investment. But where do you stop feeding? You stop feeding them when you can achieve better returns on your capital elsewhere.
Up next is Part 4, Tips and Questions.